Behind every amazing flavor is an amazing human who has perfected their craft. Welcome to Flavors Unknown, a behind-the-scenes look at new flavors and the chefs, pastry chefs, and bartenders who create them, with your host, Emmanuel.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Flavors Unknown podcast. I am your host, Emmanuel Roche. I have been involved in the food industry in Europe and the US for more than 20 years. And every other week, I interview trending chef, pastry chef, and bartenders to discover new flavors and ingredients that they are experimenting with, to have their viewpoints of the hospitality industry today and the restaurants and the bar business. If this is the first time that you are listening to the podcast, then welcome. And last week, my guest was celebrity chef Jose Garces. It was a great episode that you do not want to miss. And make sure to subscribe, to the podcast to make sure that you are not missing any upcoming episode. My guest today is Chef Alison Trent from Isabel in West Hollywood, Los Angeles. She talks about what took her from Canberra, Australia to LA, California, with a stop at the Culinary Institute in New York City. She talks about her experience at the famous French Laundry in California, and she's convinced that the future of the industry is through collaboration. You can find the show notes from this episode as well as all the previous ones at flavorsunknown.com. Just click on the episode page. Hi, how are you, Chef?
Hi, I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
I'm really thrilled to have you on Flavors Unknown because it's not easy, it seems, to have, woman chef to come on the show. So I'm really excited to be able to speak to you.
I'm excited to talk to you too.
Can you briefly explain to us the reason that took you from Canberra, Australia, then to the French Culinary Institute, that was the name of it at that time, in New York, and then, to move after that in LA, in California?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Canberra, the capital of Australia. I was the youngest of 4 children. I have a twin brother, in fact. And I was always a bit of the wild child, definitely a big personality, and definitely liked sort of the intense side of things. And when I discovered cooking, it just suited me absolutely to the T. It just made perfect sense to me. I had a taste of the intensity of the kitchen and I wanted to see more. So when I was 18, I moved to Sydney and lived there for a couple of years and did some bartending, did some high-end retail. And then I was exposed to kind of kitchen life. And I was just looking at those chefs thinking I could absolutely do this. So the decision was just very organic for me. I just decided this is what I want to do. And I always wanted to move to New York City. And so I did that and went to culinary school there. And after New York, I was there for about 3 years, but I really sort of longed for that better climate, something more similar to Australia. And that's what took me back to Los Angeles. Okay. So, a little bit out of the big cities and, maybe no space, in a place that, you feel better. Exactly. I felt as fun as New York City is, it was somewhat oppressive, due to the weather and just being so hot in the summer and so cold in the winter. And, I'm a really avid gardener, so I just sort of missed that outdoor life of being able to grill and really enjoy the outdoors.
And then when you started in LA, so you had the experience working with, outstanding mentors. So you spent time with Chef Michael Cimaruzzi and at Providence, and then, of course, Thomas Keller, at Bouchon first. And last, I have to say as well, and in between, you went to the French Laundry. So what did you learn from, the time you spent with those individuals?
Well, I was always very ambitious going through culinary school, and I really wanted to surround myself with the best possible chefs to work for. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I definitely told a little white lie to Michael Cimaruzzi in regards to how much experience I had had, which was very limited. And coming from New York, he was like, oh, okay, I'll just throw you on the fish station. And I got my ass absolutely kicked. But it really taught me the fundamentals of cooking and being in a professional restaurant and, the amazing ingredients and, really feeling that culture of being a family, like you really are so close to all the line cooks and you're all going into battle every service together and you sort of, maybe you come out unscathed, maybe you come out, a few years older. It was challenging, but it was very rewarding and I learned a lot. And then of course, working for Thomas Keller, and the goal when I moved to Bouchon was to work at the French Laundry. I'd seen the cookbook before going to culinary school and I had sort of made that my goal. Like I am going to work at that restaurant. I'm going to be part of that sort of culinary movement. And you really do have that sensation when you work there that you are part of something that's unique and incredible. So I took a lot away from both of those chefs and I'll always be grateful for it.
What is it about the French Laundry? Every cook, every chefs that I talked to make the reference point to the, to the cooking book, from the French Laundry cooking book. And what is, so inspiring working, at that place? Can you give us some, specifics, like an example?
So, you get there and you're just blown away by the produce. So having a culinary garden on hand where you work directly with the farmer, of course, was a big interest to me. So I really got involved with that. The fact that the menu changes every day. So after your, 15-hour shift, you sit down for the following day, you sit down and a menu planning meeting and you figure out exactly what you're doing for the following day. Forever changing the menu. You're forever trying new things on a daily basis. So daily you're making mistakes and, having successes and, really, really, really challenges you as a chef to sit down and, throw ideas out on the table and be rejected creatively and, really, really intense environment. And, I should say that, well, of course, I'm extremely grateful and privileged to work there. There's definitely some hostile, environment, that you really have to deal with. You really, really, and it has nothing to do with gender. It doesn't have anything to do with me being a woman. And in fact, there were other women working there at the time. It's obviously more male dominated in the kitchen, but, to be honest, I learned things that I, also don't want to take that same approach in terms of, bullying and aggression. And, it's this cycle of sort of ego that I really want to get so far away from in the industry. And I think that, there is a movement and, the culture is changing, but there's still a lot in fine dining that is misogynistic and not okay.
Yeah. How was it when, the first time you started there with the past experience that you had? It's like the step was that high that it was very, difficult like the first weeks. So I don't know. Months,
oh my goodness. First difficult for the first few years. It's really, when you get to the French Laundry, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. I'd come from a, really high end restaurant in Los Angeles and then Bouchon, you get there and you're stripped of everything that you already know. You basically you get the sensation that you know nothing about cooking and you're going to start again. And I hope that things have changed somewhat and progressed in a positive way, but, it's really, really, really challenging. And there's a lot of verbal abuse that goes on and physically, it's extremely challenging. And, unfortunately, it's this cycle where, the people above you have been treated poorly and, this old school French mentality where people have to scream in people's faces to get
French. Yes, of course.
Yeah. And it is effective in the sense that it gives you a lot of discipline and it gives you a thick skin. I've seen grown men cry and walk out of the French Laundry. I've seen, really accomplished female chefs just be like, I can't put up with this level of, verbal kind of torture essentially. And, there's no real blame to be put on anyone directly. I'd never name names, but, the cycle is that they grew up in this culture.
What they learn. Yeah, they learned this. Yeah, exactly. And we're repeating it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that is something that I took away that was really, really important for me. And that is, I made it crew. And after the 2 years, I definitely gained the trust of some of the chefs, and, had a really creative role in terms of menu planning. And it finally felt like, oh, I've made it and I've succeeded. But when I look back on those sort of first few years where it's just absolutely grueling, the hours, the physical aspect of it, and then to be sort of mistreated, it's not how it's not how I think people should be treated. And I'm absolutely against it.
Was it a time that you wanted to quit at the beginning?
You know what? No, I'm a bulldog. So when I get my teeth into something, I was like, I am absolutely not like leaving here with my tail between my legs. I also have a lot of responsibility. I really feel that I would never, people that have sort of walked out of the French Laundry in the middle of service, I always wondered like, oh, how could you do that? You're letting down a team. So I'm definitely a loyalist, and yeah, and felt like there was a big responsibility to succeed and do well. And, there were many challenges to overcome, but, at the end I left. Oh, I wanted to quit every day for the first year. But of course, I just soldiered through. I was not going to be, that person crying and running offline and not being able to do the job. It was really important for me to succeed.
You say it was not gender specific, but, they are definitely nowadays more high profile female chefs, and pastry chef as well in the industry, more than, they were a few decades ago. So do you have the sense that the profession is changing in its openness to women?
I mean, absolutely. Right now, my current crew, Isabel specifically, there are a lot of women working for me there. And, it's a safe, fun, intense, but respectful environment. And I believe it is changing, but the reality is staffing is so incredibly hard here in Los Angeles, where there are too many restaurants, not enough cooks that want to just be cooks. People want to be a sous chef, or they want some kind of different status, but to find line cooks, it's incredibly challenging. So I think it's about building a team and an environment where people want to work. You could not treat people the way, some of these high-end restaurants do, because when you go to the French Laundry, you're so desperate to work there, right? I didn't even ask what my rate of pay would be. I was just like, I'll work for free, that's fine. Because knowledge is power in this industry, like anything else. And, what you learn really, propels your career in the future. So you sort of have this selfless sort of approach where you just would do anything to work there. Here in Los Angeles, it's absolutely not like that. You have to take care of your employees. You really, really have to treat people with a lot of respect and be flexible in some degree.
You have now 2 restaurants located in West Hollywood. So Isabel and Laurel Hardware. So can you please describe to us what Isabel is about?
Sure. So Isabel is an absolutely beautiful space. So it's just down the road from Santa Monica Boulevard. So a real sort of hub in West Hollywood. Just until recently, so 4 years in, we just finally put up a sign saying that it's a restaurant. But before then, you would never know this nondescript building.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. I was lucky to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you sort of, you walk in and it opens up into this beautiful urban oasis, and you're sitting below fairy lights and olive trees and really beautiful sort of antique furniture everywhere, just really, really, really beautifully designed. And then the menu is, it's not fine dining. It's definitely like more casual. We encourage people to share, but, really, really high-end ingredients. For me, sourcing ingredients is one of the most important things for being a chef. My biggest thing is I am just so done with all the ego in the kitchen. I put up with so much crap that I do not want that to be a part of what I do in the future. And so I honestly think that, you really have to listen to the demographic, and say, what do these people want to come here and eat? It's a very social place. It's really kind of a sceney spot for sure. But, definitely in the last 4 years, it went from being one thing into a new identity. And it didn't start off with this really specific, this is what we're going to do. But yeah, it's definitely morphed and evolved into something that's, a heavy dinner crowd and people coming in and just eating and drinking and, really socializing. It's not stuffy at all. There's no tablecloths. It's a beautiful restaurant. We serve great food and the ambience is like absolutely awesome.
Yeah. And you're talking about, the customers. So I guess you have seen a lot of celebrities, coming to Isabel because it's the place as well to be seen, in West Hollywood. So do you have special moments maybe that you can share with us with maybe one celebrity that, that was something interesting?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't usually get very starstruck, but I have to say, I've got two experiences actually I want to tell you quickly. And one of the most recent one was Snoop Dogg was in there and he was just absolutely chain smoking blunts on the outdoor patio and just and I was introduced to him and he just kept asking me for more fried shrimp. And, I thought it was really funny because he must have been pretty hungry with the munchies. And then the other one is Dolly Parton. That was that was really cool. I was like, oh wow, she's a living legend, and she gave me a hug. And I remember her perfume was so strong that it stayed on my chef jacket, and I kept sniffing it through the rest of the service, and was blasting Jolene in the kitchen. So yeah, no, that was cool. That was cool.
Okay. So how is Laurel Hardware different from Isabel? But it's still in West Hollywood, correct?
It is, yeah. It's just around the corner, which is nice because it's kind of like a backup scenario, like really, I mean, a lot of issues happen with ordering and, being shorted on something. And so it's really nice to have a sister restaurant around the corner where, they call up at 10 o'clock at night and they've just had sold an insane amount of fries or something. And, we literally like run it over to them and, we help each other out. It's definitely two very different restaurants, but there's, definitely like, it's not competitive. Like there's a level of respect and, we really help each other out in terms of production. But Laurel Hardware it's honestly sort of an institution at this point, it really has a strong local vibe and, people come in and, they'll drink and eat and just, they'll come in for a full dinner or just snacks at the bar. And so again, we really try and listen to the demographic there and say, okay, well, what do these people want to eat? And again, the same thing it comes back to it's simple food. It's pizza, it's pasta. It's, you'd think in West Hollywood, everyone, is on the old model diet and just eating air. But in fact, we sell more pasta and pizza than anything else. And, it's comfort American food that is done well, good ingredients and executed in positive fashion. But yeah, no, it's a real neighborhood restaurant for sure.
Sourcing is very important. Selection of the ingredients, I was reading some of interviews that you have done. And so it seems that, 4 words are key to you, way of cooking, which is seasonality, sustainability, and locally grown. So can you a little bit explain to us what each represent, for you and why they are so important?
Sure. So, I mean, I was really fortunate enough to work for chefs that really instilled that into me from a young age. And one of my favorite parts about this profession is the relationships that I build with farmers and different vendors. And honestly, some of my closest friends currently, actually pretty much all of them, come from and through work. And that is, aligning yourself with like-minded people that care about, the environment, that care about good food. And again, just really sort of no ego behind any of it. So I think sustainability for me is extremely important because, I want to see this profession, moving forward and evolving in a way that is sustainable, and using waste in an appropriate way is absolutely fundamental for that to be continued. Local produce I think is really important because a lot of people think, they want to see like organic splashed on something and, I feel like in some ways, and, not to sound pretentious, but, I feel like sometimes people know like just enough not to know exactly, what they're talking about. That is, to become certified organic, you need to be a farm that is making, a ton of profit and, be able to jump through all these hoops. So by only buying organic things at the supermarket or anywhere, you're basically shutting those people out. So the best possible thing you can do as a consumer is to go to your local farmers market and support local farmers who honestly work harder than chefs. Like the relationships I've built in the last couple of years and, really getting to know the ins and outs of the farming industry. It's brutal. It makes my job look like a walk in the park. I mean, and also, the fishing industry and, the more you learn, the more you realize like you don't know anything about, you're so limited in what you know. So honestly, I can say that is, people need to scratch this idea of like certified organic and just shop at their local farmers market and meet the farmers. Most of the time they're super awesome people and they're going to love the fact that you love what they're doing, and they need that support because otherwise they won't survive. And, with property and everything sort of going up, I mean, they're staying in the industry, out of respect and, not selling. They could sell their farm and, probably live off the proceeds for the rest of their time. But it's about maintaining their integrity as a farmer. And I just have the utmost respect for people that go down that path.
You have done recently, I think end of last year in October, a special event, correct? Like cooking at the Weiser family farm.
Yeah, exactly.
This is one of the suppliers that you are working with.
Exactly.
Can you talk to us a little bit about this event that you put together?
Sure. So Alex Weiser is sort of one of the most famous farmers here in Los Angeles in terms of, he almost started that Santa Monica farmers market, and his family's been in the business for years and years, decades. He works closely with a woman called Sherry, and she is Tehachapi Grain Project. So basically they've started growing these incredible grains again in California because they moved away from doing it here and into other states that could also that needed something to farm, right? So of course everything is better in California. So when she started producing these grains, it's a real movement in terms of, wow, these are actually much better than grains we're getting from other states in the country. And so I really got behind that mentality and supporting Weiser Farms. And essentially it was a dinner to sort of showcase my own personal event company. And so a lot of what I do is a lot of visual art sort of on the side. I do a lot of painting and sculpture and ceramics and, anything visual art related, I'm an absolute fan of. And so it was kind of marrying all these things together, right? It's horticulture, design, for a lack of a better word, like this incredible tablescape that ran down tables in the farm. We set up an impromptu kitchen in a barn. We had power, but mostly we cooked off thank goodness, but mostly we cooked off a big grill and, we served 40 people and it was a really unique experience. And I think that's what we're moving towards now. Just in general is experiences. And I love to get outside of the kitchen. And, I did a dinner recently at a ceramic studio, which people were sort of really blown away by because they get the experience to make a pot themselves and learn how to, throw a pot on the wheel. And then they eat from these absolutely incredible ceramic art pieces that, they really have a much bigger appreciation. We've been eating out of vessels for as long as we can remember. But, that sort of connection between what we eat from and what we eat is sometimes sort of lost in the mix of things. And so I work really closely with Match Ceramics, and they do an absolutely phenomenal job of collaboration. So I have a dish in mind and I'm like, oh, I think something like this will work. And then he comes back with something that's absolutely blows me away. And, I really believe collaboration is the key to moving forward.
Okay, so it's a back and forth between the artists and you, the crafts woman, I would say, from a culinary standpoint. Uh-huh. And the idea is that, there's an idea about the dish and then you have an idea about some ingredients and you guys work together.
Exactly.
And collaborate on the final recipe. So you have maybe an example to share with us on something that, either the ceramic was inspiration or that the produce was inspiration for the person who did the plate?
Absolutely. So for my event company, Alison Trent Events, I really want to make it something so unique where it's not just this catering company that's shoving past canapes in your face and you're like, oh, no, this is social. Like, no, thank you, I'm fine, declining. But creating essentially these absolutely like beautiful installations using his ceramics, and it can be stationary and people are just drawn to it, right? You know, there's art on it. It's food on art, you know, and I just think that people have never sort of seen something sort of so avant-garde in terms of some of these plates that he's creating. You know, they're just very unconventional. They're really, really unique. And I had him make for me this beautiful plate, which essentially, you know, it's for past canapes at a party, but, you know, it's got this sort of deep rim around the outside where I can plant essentially like a little garden in it and have, you know, succulents hanging down. And, you know, as opposed to, you know, you having someone walking around and like I said, shoving this thing in your face, people are drawn to it. You can almost stand stationary and people are like, this is so beautiful. And, you know, it's a cliche. You eat with your eyes first, but it's really true. And it makes such a huge difference to have that collaboration. And I just love it too. You know, I think that there's been such culture of like ego in kitchens for so long and cooking and everyone sort of wanting to be the best and so competitive. And yeah, you have to be competitive. But I think that, you know, working alongside other artists and people that are like-minded, you know, I think is extremely important. And in terms of collaboration, I mean, I honestly, again, think that that's the sort of the future of the industry where we break down people thinking that they're better than everybody else and we start sending young chefs. I mean, that's the only way you continue learning, right? Is just to be exposed to different things. And, you know, it's a profession where you can never know it all. You know, there's no end to it. So even as an executive chef, you know, you want to go and travel, you want to go and work and see what other people are doing. And it shouldn't be something that's closed. You should be absolutely open to just working with people and sharing recipes and experiences. And I think that's where it's headed.
So when you're talking about this new company, that Alison Trent Evans, so this is something that comes from you and someone you want to collaborate with, and you are putting like an event together and people come and experience it, or you have some people like reaching out to you to create, you know, events with you. So how does it work?
All of those things. So I have a website and people reach out and essentially, you know, again, I want to be inspired by the clients and, you know, maybe it's an event that's a team building exercise for, you know, a corporate company, or maybe it's, you know, an open house in a beautiful place. You know, it really sort of working with the client one-on-one to create this absolutely standout and unique experience, you know, leaving the guest saying, oh, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. And it kind of marries all of my passions in life, which is, you know, the visual arts, you know, it's installation, it's cooking in different environments, not being sort of trapped in one kitchen and four walls. And then, you know, really interactive things. So maybe, you know, it's an event where there's a big tablescape set up and people are given a little menu and they have to sort of forage from that table. Cool. And yeah, so it's, and people really, really, when they, you know, meet the chef, and so this farm dinner recently, you know, you have the farmer sitting there, you have the beekeeper sitting there, you have the pastry chef sitting there, you know, it's really like, it's a really eclectic group of people that have all sort of come together and are sharing this meal and appreciating every aspect of it. So from the ceramic element to, you know, just your environment in general, like it really touches people on a different level where it's not just like, oh, it's another restaurant and yeah, the food was good. But, you know, this is, you get to sort of pick people's brains and learn as you're eating, and you just have a much higher appreciation of it.
He really connects with the trends at the moment about like, you know, experience. People wants to live an experience, and that's what you are offering, you know, to them. So that's great.
Yeah, and for sure. There's so many restaurants you can go to that are really delicious food, and, you know, you walk away thinking, oh, that was great, but have an experience to really feel like you were a part of something it changes your life in some way, you know, as maybe cheesy as that sounds, it's really true. It takes you out of your comfort zone of just going to a dinner and makes you think of, and these are things I already consider, right? Ceramics and the farmer. But this is not something that sort of the, average diner thinks about when they go out to eat, and just how much sort of work goes into it and how all of these relationships are really symbiotic. And, my relationship with the farmer, Alex Weiser, he'll text me and say, hey, my mom's avocado tree is blowing up. Do you want some personal avocados from her yard? And I'm like, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want some VIP avocados. One of my favorite ingredients, but and it does make a difference. And you really want to support these people because you love them as friends.
No, but as you said before, I think for the people listening, that says, oh, of course, she's a chef, so she has access to all those great ingredients, but everyone can go to their, local farmers markets and enjoy quality, ingredient as well. So
absolutely. That's I feel like especially in summer, I like to try and, obviously the menu reflects differently, but, in summer personally, I try and eat sort of like less protein and stay more with, like tomatoes and, just really fresh, bright ingredients because it's hot here in LA, right? So don't want to be eating anything too heavy.
What's your next event? What is the one coming up? Can you maybe have one coming up that you can talk about?
Yeah. So the next one is going to be an open house, and it's this absolutely incredible mansion in Bel Air. Ooh la la.
Ooh la la, yeah.
And essentially, so I also work with a really, really talented pastry chef named Chris Ford from Four Seasons, and he's one of my best friends. And he and I sort of like collaborate again. This collaboration thing is absolutely everything. I can't stress it enough. But, we're each other's, right hand. I'm savory. He is pastry, and he's so incredibly meticulous about everything he does. And so we've sort of recently started doing some events together, and he does the sweet aspect of everything. But yeah, this one we have coming up is this absolutely beautiful house that, you're dealing with clients that, they're not going to just like wander into an open house and think, oh, yes, I can imagine myself living here. The realtors really want to give them an experience while they're there to sort of make them realize like, oh, this could be your home and something like this could happen in your home, right? They're salespeople, but that's the goal. So just doing this really beautiful installation where people come up and can eat some cheese and charcuterie and, drink some wine and a few, past canapes going around the yard and, really interacting with the people that are there, talking to them about the process. I'm super social, so I love going to tables. I love talking people's ears off. But, most of the time, and obviously you get a feel for whether someone's sort of into it or not, but, most of the time people are so excited to meet the chef. And I'm like,
sure,
awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to meet you. Like you love the food and, that's what it's about, right? It's such hard, grueling, sometimes repetitive work that to hear someone say, hey, this is the best meal I had in LA, it's like, it kind of makes it all worth it. And to have those, and to have those sort of interactions is like really, I feel like it's really important to sort of keep you sane in a way.
So this podcast, Flavors Unknown is as well to talk a little bit about, specific ingredients and unique flavors or different flavors. So I'm curious with your collaboration with your friend, from the pastry side and the dessert side, can you give us some example of things that you have worked together or maybe some ingredients that maybe belong more to like the dessert world that, in that cross, with, your savory world or the reverse?
I did a dinner with Chris Ford recently. Well, I guess it was actually the end of last year, which is slipping away very quickly this year. But essentially we were working with honey nut squash, which is, it's a Dan Barber invention where they took two different squashes and married them together. And the result is absolutely like sweet, delicious, almost caramel tasting squash. And that was the sort of the theme for the dinner. And he made a macaroon with it. And I was like, oh, wow. Not sure how I feel about that. And then I tasted it and I was like, whoa, this actually really, really works. Another thing is that I have this incredible tree at home. So like I said, I'm an avid gardener and I have all of these unique trees from farmers that I work with. And I have a Persian mulberry tree. It's just started to fruit now, but, I've worked with this product before. And yeah, I told Chris about it. I was like, hey, you need to use these Persian mulberries. They literally taste like bubble gum. And he did this absolutely incredible dessert using watermelon and Persian mulberries. And it was the bomb. So good. He's very talented.
So what is your latest ingredient obsession?
Latest ingredient obsession? Honestly, I would have to say tomatoes right now. We're really going into the season and, a great tomato is absolutely brilliant and a not so good tomato is awful, right? So, you really have to spend the money on tomatoes. I think that's something that people don't really realize. You're spending like crazy money on good tomatoes, especially for the time of, in the season that we're at. And so every chef is just on the prowl to get the best possible tomatoes market, at this stage.
So in terms of a chef, I'm curious. I mean, are you a chef that is working with scientific tools a little bit? I'm curious about if there's a piece of kitchen equipment that's, that is essential to you and not talking about your knives, but,
Sure. I'm a real purist. So I did a lot of sort of molecular gastronomy at the French Laundry and worked with a bunch of different chemicals and so forth. And it was really interesting. And, I'm certainly appreciative of that experience. But honestly, I just like food. I like good ingredients. I like to keep it simple. And also in terms of technique too, I'm not looking to sort of crack the next code with, molecular gastronomy. It's really not my style. I really I often thought, using some of these chemicals is just can this be good for you? And how far is this really strayed from being something that's interesting to just being delicious? For me, simplicity is absolutely key. It's not being I want to cook this and I want to showcase my technical ability by doing this and that. It's more about no, what would I want to sort of eat for sure, but also what does the guest want to eat? And for me, when you talk about sort of chemicals in food, I really think you're just diluting it. It's unnecessary in my approach anyway. I mean, yeah, sure, it can, stabilize a great foam and make a nice puree, but often it's sort of diluting the product and you can achieve the same results without any of that sort of mumbo jumbo. So I take a real simple approach to both somewhat technique, but definitely ingredients. It's absolutely everything.
So you're talking about real food, and I'm thinking of people that are maybe listening at home and they are home cooks. So I would like to pick up your brain. I do that with, each chef that I have on the show. Take something which is, mainstream. So you have been talking about pasta, from, the Laurel Hardware, restaurant that you have. So what would be your suggestion how people can prepare a really nice summer pasta dish recipe at home?
Right. Well, pasta is very close to my heart. I mean, I sell a ton of it at both locations. I love making it. I feel like it's extremely therapeutic. We have a really beautiful Italian extruder as well as doing a lot of hand-rolled items. Honestly, I think, for people cooking at home, simplicity again, to go back to that is just absolutely key, right? And when we're talking about pasta in summer, which is obviously sort of a heavier carb-driven scenario, it's really, really keeping it simple. Go to the farmer's market and try and eat meat less, right? So get these amazing tomatoes and some garlic and some...
Here we go, tomatoes again.
There we go. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it's this time of year, man.
Sure, I know. So what do I put with my tomato? How do I combine?
Well, I think that the biggest thing, you're going to do pasta in summer, then you need to sort of pair it with a salad, right? You're not doing some big heavy, oxtail ragu. You're doing something light and maybe you have a bit of a white wine base, so you have that nice acidity. And, even though it's sort of carb driven, it's still acidic and, balanced. And I think that's the biggest thing for people cooking at home is they're sort of not overthinking it. You have friends coming over, a nice like bucatini with a really simple, beurre blanc and black pepper, and then paired with a really lightly dressed mixed green salad is sort of, it's sort of enough, and definitely when I cook
no other herbs that I put, in
oh my gosh, all the herbs.
Okay, so which one? Tell me.
Well, honestly, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a garden, so whenever I cook at home, I will do something really simple, like maybe a penne with, a butter lemon sauce, and then just go out into the yard and grab, some fresh oregano, some fresh flat leaf parsley, some, interesting different basil, some pineapple basil. So, and really, like, that's sort of that fine herb French aspect where, you really get this herbaceous bright, and then finish it all with a ton of lemon juice. So you don't feel like you're eating this sort of heavy meal,
and a bit of cheese in there or not?
Oh
like feta
my gosh,
or
you
anything,
have to.
or no?
I mean, I think like a nice, like aged pecorino, but again, down to the ingredient. And, you go and you don't have to, buy a big 10-pound block of this thing. You really are able to cook simply from, we have great grocery stores and, you pay the price for it, right? But if you're substituting like a really nice cheese as opposed to buying, some steak, for example, I think, vegetarian and vegan is definitely sort of the way and what is going to be sustainable in the future. But I think if you can balance, which is highly upsetting, but, if you can balance sort of like not having too much of an intake and say, okay, well, I'm going to buy a really beautiful aged pecorino just to shave over a simple pasta tonight. And I really think simplicity is the key when you're cooking at home. People are impressed by the execution of things, not like, oh, wow, there's all these bells and whistles. It just looks like you're trying too hard, right? If you're at home doing a dinner party. So I just think simplicity is absolutely key. But maybe you factor in some capers and, some olives and something that's going to give a bit more of a briny aspect. But it's all about balance, right? So you play around.
Okay. But I like the idea that you're putting some acidity in the mixer. So that's great. So
for sure.
I think it's time to, because you have been very generous with yours. So, to finish with some rapid fire questions.
Oh boy, I'm scared of this.
Ready?
Hit me.
So, okay. So you and I are going on a Flavors Unknown tasting trek in LA.
Oh, we?
So yes, we could. So which are the 5 places you will take me to?
Oh boy. In LA or California?
It has to be done in like a day. So yeah. So, we start in the morning and we end up at the end of the day.
Does it have to be restaurants or can it be like...
No.
Okay.
It could be anything. I just want to experience something different, unique. I'm a foodie and, I want something really unique and new.
Well, I would probably start out by taking you for breakfast at Squirrel in Los Angeles. In Silver Lake. They do a really incredible, just sort of authentic and just non-pretentious food, but using really interesting flavors. And they're so sustainable in terms of their approach to cooking. So Squirrel in Los Feliz, I think. And then lunch.
So that's one.
Okay, that's one. Okay, got it. And then I would definitely take you on some different excursions, to the fish market and to the farmers market in Santa Monica. I mean, it's definitely the best market in the city. Meat farmers just taste like melons are just coming in right now. So Weiser Farms absolutely kills it there. Absolutely just slays the best melons you've ever put in your mouth.
What, like cantaloupe melon? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All the melons. Cool. And he has really interesting varieties and, it's sort of this toy box mix of just absolutely amazing melons.
Okay, so it can count for 2 places. You say fish market and, farmers markets. Okay, so we have 3 now.
Okay, so we're at 3. I love really sort of clean food. I love Japanese food. I love sushi. I have a little spot that I like to go to. It's kind of understated on Santa Monica Boulevard called Jinpachi. And it just really, really, really good, clean, beautiful product. And
do they have great
like
uni?
I said, again, oh yes. Although
wow.
I have a bit of an issue with uni because
you're allergic to it?
There's a story. There's a story here. You want to hear it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So I spent quite a bit of time in Thailand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. They're all good. But I spent quite a bit of time in Thailand just, based on the fact that it's somewhat close to Australia. We're so far from everything. So definitely sort of in my late teens was just working to be able to go and live in Thailand for, months on end and cook and eat. And, the food's amazing. The people are amazing. The environment's absolutely beautiful. So I was doing some snorkeling there one time, and I was like sort of off in a boat, and my friend was messing around with me, and I just kicked my foot down on this sea urchin, and the pain, and the pain of it caused me to kick down even further. So I literally stuck this pin cushion into the sole of my foot, like deep, gosh. Like we're talking sort of 2 inches, hundreds of spikes in my foot. Me coming from Australia where everything's poisonous, I thought I was going to die. So my leg went numb. I was screaming. The boat was leaving. And then basically I had this like terrible, foot
I can hear the helicopter coming to save you at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And so I have always been, I was in Thailand for months on crutches. Poor old me hobbling through paradise in the sand on crutches was not easy. But yeah,
so
it ended up being an absolute nightmare.
Since then?
No, I eat the heck out of those sea
exactly, vengeance. It's called vengeance.
Yeah, exactly. It's a vengeance thing. And recently at my favorite Japanese restaurant, eating a little like piece of uni, shell in it, cracked my front tooth.
Oh no!
So really had to go to the dentist the next day.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, there is something with me and uni. It's vengeful.
Oh my gosh!
It's my nemesis.
In California, you have delicious uni. So yeah.
Oh, we have great uni, and I will gladly smear that on some toast. And
okay, so don't worry, you can eat something else at this sushi place, but I will eat the uni. So what's the?
Okay, so I need one more place.
It could be a bar. We can have a drink after. It's up to you.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool. Well, I'm a big fan of the old dive bar, and, it's coming from Isabel, which is so far from that. I love just something that's super, super relaxed.
So what's
I'm going to say the Pikey right around the corner from my house is highly convenient right there. Just for a nice little drinky poo.
Okay. Sounds great. Okay, so
did I do good?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for playing with me here. So
my pleasure.
Let's talk about cookbook. I don't know. Do you look at cookbooks? You read them? You flip through them, or not really?
You know what? I'll be honest. And like when I first started out in the industry, I was obsessed with cookbooks and got myself a nice sort of inventory of them. Now, I gotta be honest, I don't even pick them up. I like to kind of, it's not like, again, collaboration's so important to me, and it's not like I'm trying not to be influenced by anything else, but I'm just so focused on doing my own thing that I just don't really.
So
I read novels and other.
But if I say, if there's one cookbook, of course, I'm not talking about the French Laundry one, because that would be too easy. So if there's one other cookbook that inspired you when you were flipping through them at the time that you were still reading cookbooks, which one would you suggest?
Honestly, I'm going to go with an Australian. Got to represent,
sure,
but
absolutely.
Quay and Key and Circular Quay, absolutely beautiful. And, the food scene in Australia in general is like really out of this world. And it's come so far since I left sort of 15 years ago. I'm really, really, really impressed with Australian chefs, and in general, it just has absolutely amazing food.
So what is your favorite guilty pleasure food? I'm sure you have one, or more than one.
Oh, French fries. I can't stop. There's no fried potato I've met that I haven't liked. It's a problem. It's a problem. It's so simple.
How do you eat them with? Do you eat them with anything like ketchup, any sauce, mayo?
Oh,
whatever?
you've got to go sort of like aioli. I like all the
Hot
sauces.
sauce.
So one thing about my palate is I hate any kind of dry food. So I hate shortbread. I can't even possibly imagine eating bread without butter. Like I like it rich and juicy.
Okay. Wow.
So I like a lot of sauce. We made Peruvian steak sandwiches at my house yesterday, and I just had to add the extra avocado spread. It's just got to be done.
So I was going to ask you, so, it's your day off and you are feeling lazy, you're at home. So what do you prepare for dinner?
I'm feeling lazy, and what do I prepare?
Not tomato.
I order food online. No tomatoes. I swear, actually, I'm not actually, not my free time.
You're ordering online? Wow.
I order some stuff online, but honestly, I do cook a lot too at home. But when I do, it's all outdoors. I mean, we are cooking up the old wood and charcoal in the fire pit, and then we transfer it to either hibachi or...
Yeah, you have the hibachi grill, huh? Mm-hmm. I think a video
exactly.
of you doing this. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I love that thing. But also, just like a simple Weber. I mean, it's so easy to do, and you can honestly, cook for 20 people on that thing. I mean, it's really versatile. It's inexpensive. It's fun. It's sort of the experience. So,
and you can be with your guests at the same time. So cool.
Exactly. And it's not, my poor anxious mother is always like, I just can't cook anymore. I just can't do it. I don't know how you do it. And that's something I've never experienced. It's just like cooking is not stressful, when you know the timing, and I guess, practice is everything, right? So you get better at it, but it just doesn't stress me out. It makes me feel really good to know that I'm like cooking for friends and family, and there's no expectations. It's just like good food, good company, good wine, and Bob's your uncle, mate.
Yeah. And then, with the hibachi grill, and you smoke like all your guests at the same time. So, which is fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So one last question. One rule you learn in cooking school that every home cook should know.
What did I learn in cooking school that every home chef should know? I'm going to go ahead and say absolutely nothing. No, I'm just joking. That was a waste of $45,000.
I heard some.
Yeah, no, that's going to be my answer. That's going to be my answer.
Great. I love it.
Don't go to culinary school after 40. I will tell people that.
Okay, that's funny. I heard like something similar from Sam Mason, like Ice Cream Oddfellows in New York.
Oh,
the same thing. Said, I should have sent the money traveling around the world.
Totally.
And I just realized that, traveling, we haven't talked about Costa Rica. That's one other thing that we have in common. I love Costa Rica. So.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
It's such an amazing, magical place on earth. So I got affiliated through this incredible sustainable seafood company it just closed and it's relaunching, called Dr. Dish. And they work closely with this resort in Costa Rica. And essentially I got in touch with the owner, and he has this chef exchange program, which I really love the idea of, right? Because again, with just like losing the ego, and you send me one of your chefs and I'll come out there and I'll give him a bunch of stages here in Los Angeles. And I go out there once a year and do tasting menus. I'll stay 6 days, and 3 nights I'll be doing tasting menus. The other 3 nights I'll be chilling with the slots. But what's really amazing about it is that people are just so blown away. They're in Costa Rica. They come to the resort, hotel. It's absolutely beautiful, rainforest, beach, ocean scenario. It's called Arenas del Mar. And I'll do like a 12-course tasting menu using the different ingredients, right? So it's so fun. It's also, I've got a kitchen full of Spanish-speaking people that, it's not so different from Los Angeles, but, I need translators for, and it's really, really, really interesting to be able to, makes me a better chef to go and do it.
So how often do you do that?
Just once a year. Once a year. And,
okay.
Yeah.
When's the next time?
It'll be about, I just got back, so it'll be, roughly about sort of, yeah. But what's really incredible about it is this resort, they go out of their way not to disrupt their environment, and they're so respectful of their nature. Like, It's just sort of the Pura Vida mentality where, they're so respectful of, and, in awe of their own beauty. They can recognize it, and they're trying to do everything right. So, the compost is, 7 different composts. One goes to feed the pigs that then they get in to use at the restaurant, and one goes to the chicken, and citrus goes somewhere else. And, it's composting and recycling on a completely different level, and something that America just doesn't even touch. I mean, I've tried to get sort of different compost situations happening for the restaurants, like horrible to throw away things, right? But, unfortunately, there's just not it's too expensive for it to be profitable for anybody. And, doing the right thing is usually the most expensive thing, right?
Have you had a chance to travel a little bit within Costa Rica?
Not so much, actually. I pretty much have come out here, and I don't even leave the resort.
So come on. 2 places that you have to discover is like the volcano Arenal area, which is beautiful. And then the other one is the Monteverde part of the country, which is outstanding. So you should go there next time.
What took you over there?
I love travel. So I every year.
Have you been to Australia?
Unfortunately not. No, that's one place I haven't been. So no.
Well, this is in Manuel Antonio on that coast.
Oh yeah, okay.
You heard of that?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've been to the park.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I've done 10 days over there. That's phenomenal, and I want to go back. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, anyhow, so thank you so much. And
thank you.
Next time I'm in LA, I will knock on your door and we'll do this little tasting tour that seems phenomenal.
A little eclectic, but, I think it's going to be a good time.
That's great.
I'll wait for that drink at the Pikey.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chef. I really enjoyed to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening today. It was such a pleasure to have Chef Alison Trent on the show. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you did, please make sure that you share this episode with other chefs or foodie friends. And you can share it directly from your phone or on the podcast website, flavorsunknown.com. Remember to subscribe to the show, and please leave a review and a rating. In 2 weeks, my guest will be Chef Johnny Sparrow from A Reverie in Washington, D.C. I see you in 2 weeks, and until then, remember that people who love to eat are always the best people.
You've just enjoyed another delicious episode of Flavors Unknown. Hungry for more? Hit subscribe. Tell us where you're listening from by leaving a review. And for social media and show notes, head to flavorsunknown.com.